Hello, welcome to Regular Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted to say Keith Jackson's still on his holidays. So today I'm joined by Record Sports' Scott McDermott. Scott, how's it going?
I'm good, Daniel. You all right? Feels like we've never been away.
That cheeky wee grin I've missed while I've been on my holidays. And we're also joined by the one and only Michael Gannon. Mick, how's it going?
How you doing, guys? Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. I got my usual Sports Direct mug for my Father's Day, and I've had a chocolate. Quite happy.
That's it.
I get a big Duncan Ferguson autobiography, Mick, so I'll be looking forward to that.
I might need to borrow it off you then. Something my big cup of tea. I can read it.
That's quite a good present, Scott. To be honest,
I'm delighted. That's a holiday reading sorted. So I'm quite pleased with it.
Aye. For any viewers that are here every night, any kind of dedicated Hotline Live viewers, we've obviously been off for a couple of weeks, but we're back now. This is effectively the start of the 25-26 season, which sounds mad saying halfway through the 20s, but here we are. And Mick, best place for us to start, I think Celtic Park. We start often on Rangers in this show, so thought we'd start on Celtic. I think a lot of people were expecting a big summer for Celtic. It's starting to liven up a little bit now, but it's been kind of quiet so far.
Well, not really, actually. I mean, Celtic, are traditionally, they take a bit of time in the transfer market. I mean, usually the transfer window opens up and there's barely a breeze for Celtic until the last minute, then it becomes a bit of a gale force. But this time, there actually seems to be a lot going on with Celtic, a lot of irons and a lot of fires. Obviously, Kieran Tierney's in the door already, and there's another 2 or 3 we'll probably check in this week. So there could be 3 or 4 new signings in the first week of the window, which is kind of unheard of at Celtic, really.
That's a good point.
Reputation for being kind of dithers and kind of humming and hawing all summer. And they've been a bit more proactive, it looks like. Obviously, Kieran Tierney's had the scarf above the head already. Young lad from Fulham, Callum Osman, is due to check in. Ross Doohan, the goalkeeper. I mean, it looks like Benjamin Nygren is pretty much a done deal, or close to being a done deal. They've moved quickly on that one. Obviously, kind of highly rated young Swedish kind of attacker, which has got kind of folk a wee bit kind of excited in the Celtic fans already. So they've been a bit more proactive than usual. I think Celtic fans are kind of usually wait and get a bit impatient and a bit kind of tetchy about signings, but they're certainly going to get a few new faces in early. It looks like this time. And
Benjamin, is it Nygren or Nygren? I've gone
with Nygren, but I've seen a lot of people say Nygren. But I think the Nygren was the Swedish kind of. I don't know, but we'll find out if he checks in, I suppose.
He looks like quite an exciting player. Hat-trick against Fenerbahce at one point in Europe. He's already got a couple of goals for Sweden. He looks like he could be a really good player.
Yeah, interesting CV, isn't it? I mean, obviously, he kind of burst onto the scene at Gothenburg. I think he was at 16, 17. He was in the first team, and I think he was one of the hottest prospects in Sweden. People were raving about him. He gets a move to Genk at 17 for £4.5 million. It's a lot of money for a teenager. From Scandinavia, but I think it might have came too soon for him. Didn't really work out. Loan spell in Holland didn't really catch fire. Went back to Denmark, but he's found himself in Denmark, and he's also been one of the best players of the season. Team of the season, 16 goals. Called up by the Sweden national team. He scored a couple of goals for them already. Still only 23. He looks like a guy that fits the bill. I mean, they're talking about maybe £1.72 million, which is buttons really in the grand scheme of things for Celtic. It does look like it fits the kind of bill in terms of a player with potential, development, possibilities of progressing and moving on again down the line. It seems to tick a lot of boxes. Listen, again, you've got to be careful because we're all guilty of it. And anytime you speak to someone, very rarely do you phone up somebody and say, this guy any good? And they go, no, he's rotten, right? They never say it right. They're always world beaters until they're in the door. But this kid does seem to tick a lot of boxes. And it looks like a pretty solid signing. And he can play, by all accounts. I think he's been sold as a winger, but I think he's more than a winger. I think he can play wide right, but I think he can play number 10 as well. He can play wide left, play up front. I think he can be that kind of attacking midfield player as well. So he can play a lot of positions. I think that's what Ben Rodgers likes, that kind of flexibility, doesn't he? Likes his teams to be quite fluid, hard to pin down. So you think, is he going to be a wide man, or is he going to be a kind of a Matt O'Reilly type kind of player? Which they've lacked. I think Celtic have lacked. I think O'Reilly was a good signing at the time because he was the guy that became the new kind of Tom Rogic. That kind of ball playing number 10, can pick a pass and score a goal. Is this kid going to be that guy? Who knows? But it seems to kind of fit that bill, I think.
That's quite interesting, Max. I just assumed He was a right winger, and I just assumed he would win there as direct competition for Kuhn, really. And I thought to the end of last season, Kuhn had kind of went off the boil a bit and maybe needed just that wee. I was wondering if that's the reason why Celtic are so keen to go and get a right winger. And I like Nygren's profile, just as you spoke about, and on the face of it, it looks like a bit clever business. I think he's only got 6 months left. They've kind of nipped in early. He's an international, but he's obviously playing in a league where you can, Celtic would hope to go and exploit that kind of market. I agree. I think he ticks a lot of boxes, and I just wondered whether he was. It's interesting you saying he could also play infield, which is obviously great for if he hits it off. But I just wondered whether they just wanted somebody to really put pressure on Kuhn, and if you can get Kuhn at his best, as we've seen, the thought of him and Nygren both kind of competing on that right hand side is a kind of mouth-watering prospect, I'm assuming, for Celtic fans.
Yeah, I just don't know if. I think you're right. I think that right side would probably be the area that they're looking at for him. I think he tends to play, but I think he can play through the middle. I just think it's a good insurance policy because I think Kuhn. Listen, there is questions about Kuhn. There's a lot of talk in January about interest in him. Clearly, his form wasn't quite the same level after Christmas. He had a wee bit of a dip. I still think he was actually pretty decent. I know, because it's a high mark in the first half of the season. But it'll be interesting to see if there is interest in him again in the summer. He's a hard guy to gauge, Nicholas Kuhn, because he's quite a quiet wee guy. And he also looks a bit kind of surly sometimes. And he's not a guy who's a big smile on his face. He's not like a Kyogo figure who's doing me dances and smiling all the time. Whereas in the background, he's plotting to go. but you don't. He's a different kind of cat. He's a hard to guy. You saw him in his celebrations and he scored a goal and he's given it all that, wasn't he? And you don't know if who was that for. So you don't know what's going on in his kind of mind. He's a kind of quiet chap. He's a tough guy to pin down interview. We know if you've seen him in front of the press, he's sometimes a bit kind of quiet. So there's question marks. Is he looking for it to go, or are they going to cash in on Kuhn? If they can keep Kuhn, get him back playing the way he played last season, and have Nygren as backup stroke competition and an option in field, it looks a good signing. That's that part of the pitch pretty well covered. Yeah. Certainly, you look at the other side. I think the left side, obviously with Dyson Maeda there. I think they'll bring in a striker that'll free him up to go back to the left kind of side. Even though they're a brilliant season, second half of the season up front, I still think they'll buy a striker. Because obviously Jota's going to be out until 2026, so as an area they need to address. But Nygren can play both sides as well, so he could be another option on that side. So I think you're right. It's a good profile I saying because he can play across that front line in any of the positions, and it will help Celtic fill in those gaps at times because at the moment they have got a few wee gaps in there. I say with Jota being out till New Year, it's an issue that has to be taken addressed.
Mm-hmm. We've got comments coming in thick and fast on both Celtic Rangers, and whatever you want to discuss, if you want to get involved, please do so in the comment section below. Francis here says, before we round up on Celtic, he says, any updates on the Forest fullback coming to Celtic? I don't even know who that would be. Forest fullback?
Is that many names? I don't know. That's not
sorry, I put you both in the spot there. That wasn't fair. But I didn't know who it was. Been on my holidays too long.
There are 16 names on a file here that of potential live targets at the moment.
Well, this one, Tim Bardsley says, what's the Osman news? You mentioned that at the top, Mick. Is it Callum Osman from Fulham? He's been playing in the Premier League 2. Is that a done deal, basically? He's set to be heading to Celtic?
By all accounts, it's pretty much sorted, yeah. Obviously, the window doesn't open officially till tomorrow. So a lot of these deals will be rubber stamped this week because the window wasn't actually officially open as such. So yeah, apparently that one's pretty much sorted. I don't know about Donny Osmond. It's Osmond, isn't it? It's not Osmond. It's Osmond.
There you go.
Do you think if that boy comes in, they'll basically look to offload Johnny Kenny? I mean, do you think he effectively comes in for him in terms of his position in the squad? I mean, that's what it struck me as when I seen it. But maybe not.
The word seems to be that he's not going to be in as a kind of a B team kind of player. But I mean, it's a kid. He's not a kind of regular every single week at the 21s with Fulham. I mean, he's played a lot of games in that PL2, but I don't think you would say he's like a nailed on guy in that level. So I think he's a bit to go before he can be classed as a first team player. So I don't think he is. I mean, I said the word is that he's come in to compete with the senior squad. I don't know if that is the case. Right, certainly not right away. Kenny, I mean, he got a wee taste of it last season. I suspect he'll be getting a loan deal somewhere. I think he'll go and do it. He's got to play 25, 35 games over the next 12 months. He's not going to get it at Celtic. So he'll go out on loan. He'll be going on loan somewhere. I think they need to find somewhere good to go and I think if you can get him an English Championship loan deal or something like that, would be perfect for him, or even abroad, I don't know. But if they can get him out and playing 20 or 30 games, then come back, then I don't think he's going to be prominent this season for Celtic. I think he needs to go and play somewhere. And that's so Osman might take that third place just by kind of keep him around the building, give him a year to get used to the surroundings. Could be another loan deal for him the year beyond that. This is a long-term strategy one. He might come in, catch fire and become a superstar straight away. But he's not. Listen, I know people are saying Fulham, cross-border, Moussa Dembele is the comparison. Moussa Dembele was a first-team player at Fulham at that point in time. He scored goals for the first team. I know he was 19, but he was a France under-21 international at that point, built like a tank, and he played first-team football for Fulham. So it's not a comparison. The only thing it's a comparison is it's a cheap deal across the border out of contract. That's the only comparison, and the same clubs involved. But apart from that, they're different players.
In the comments, Toffolo, Daniel, apparently that's the Nottingham Forest boy that...
Toffolo, he's talking about, but he's been linked with Rangers, Daniel. I've not heard him linked to Celtic. I mean, he's a left back who's he's finished his contract at Forest. They've let him go, so he's a free agent. I thought for Rangers, he would constitute a decent signing for them on a free transfer. I think I'm right in saying Russell Martin knows him from Norwich. He was a kid coming through at Norwich back in the day. He was at Huddersfield, did really well, got a move to Forest when Forest got in the Premier League. Played the first season when they just avoided relegation. Then obviously last season when Forest made about 32 signings in the summer, he didn't get a game as much, even though he actually did come in towards the end of last season. So he's left Forest. I think it'd be a good pickup for somebody. I thought Rangers might look at him as a kind of left back option, but I've not seen him linked with Celtic.
The other one there you can see on your screen, Alistair Mick asking who the left back is going to be at Celtic. Obviously Tierney's in. We understand that Greg Taylor is, I mean, it looks like he's probably away. He's technically no longer a Celtic player, I think, at the end of the month. He's been linked with move to Greece, hasn't he? I mean, he's mentioning Josh Doig there. I don't know if that's realistic, but I'd be stunned if he came to be a backup.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. I think this is an awkward signing for Celtic because it's, I said last week in a column, it's not really a backup for Kieran Tierney. I think at this point in time, and the way it's been the last 2 years with Kieran Tierney, it's a job share. But it's a hard sell to if you're saying to a player, it's a job share, but you're kind of going to be the second choice. If everybody's fit, you're going to be second choice. But you might play 25 games a season because we can't play. Listen, Kieran Tierney isn't going to play 90 minutes, 55 games a season. It's just not, because he's not got that. There isn't any evidence to suggest that's going to be possible for him, at least in the short term. If he does, fair play. For him, it would be great to go and see him do that. I don't really see it. He's only played 90 minutes 6 times in 2 years. So even on a weekly basis, he doesn't play 90 minutes. Not yet, anyway. So there is going to be a big part to play for whoever comes in. But if you're going to a guy who's 26 in their prime and saying you're kind of going back up, but might not be, because Kieran's going to be the first choice, but he might get injured and you need to play in Champions League. So you need to find a guy that can play in these big games if needed, but also be on the sidelines. So it's a difficult one to pitch. So you need to get a young guy who's up and coming, who's hungry, who's thinking, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to compete for that place, I'm going to take his place. Or you get an experienced guy who's maybe in the way down the hill, thinking, well, okay, I can't do that either. I can't play 60 games either, but I'll go in and play really well when I get a chance. Getting a guy at 26, 27, his peak is going to be difficult.
Another difficult aspect to that is, we know that Kieran Tierney is known washers at Celtic, so he's immediately in as one of the highest earners at the club, if not the high. So you can't go and bring a left back in, on a backup left back on big money either. So you're totally right. It's a very delicate, difficult sell to get. I mean, obviously Schlupp came in at the end of last season. That was perfect at that time. No, it was just kind of what they needed. Yeah. But obviously Rodgers is going to want a different kind of profile to that going into this season, for the reasons that Mick's outlined there, because there's every chance that you could play 25, 30 games next season, certainly be heavily involved. So very difficult to pick the right one and then persuade them to come and do that role.
Aye. And just finally, before we round up on Celtic, Stuart says, Mick, he says, I really hope the underwhelming debut seasons of Ida and Engels doesn't make the Celtic board revert to the old spending policy this summer. This is the time to spend big. And just to kind of go along with that, we've got a few people here.
I'm just written my kind of column on this, and it's sitting somewhere in cyberspace, ready to be released out in the wild. I'm not going to say a word.
Well, Gorbel says Evan Ferguson to Celtic. I mean, he wouldn't be cheap. But do either of you guys anticipate Celtic, really pushing the boat out this summer?
I'm not sure, Mick. I mean, I suppose they'll feel as if they're genuinely serious about trying to find another level in Europe, because clearly they've dominated in Scotland. Who knows what kind of challenge Rangers are going to put up this season? There's so much change there. You just don't know. It's how Brendan Rodgers sees them developing as a squad and in Europe. Can they go any further than getting to that first knockout stage? They obviously came really close against Bayern Munich last season. If they're going to get to that next level, they probably do need to spend big again. They need to spend the level of transfer fees that they spent on Engels and Ida again. Whether they'll do that or not, I'm not so sure. I think we've spoke before on here, and I've said a lot will depend on maybe players going out as well. If bids come in for certain players. I mean, who's to say a big bid doesn't come in for Maida, for instance, before the window closes? That can change your whole transfer strategy. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what you need and what you're going to spend. So I'm not sure. My gut feeling is they'll spend decent money without going overboard. And I think that's pretty much been the Celtic way in recent seasons. Last summer did feel quite big because of those kind of headline 9 million, 11 million on Ida and Engels, even 6 million on Trusty. I'd be surprised if they go and spend that again, but Mick maybe know better.
What do you think, Mick?
I think it's going to be really interesting, because I think spending 26 million on those three late in the window was certainly a departure for Celtic, spend that kind of money on three players. I think you look at the list. I mean, I mentioned joking about the 16 guys in the list at the moment. They're all kind of back towards more kind of traditional Celtic targets, 2, 3, 4 or 5 million quid. One or two exceptions out with that kind of band. So I think my suspicion is there might be not a total reversing back to their old kind of style, and not a complete sticking with last summer's. I think you might see a bit of both. I think you might see sort of hoover up half a dozen guys on your kind of 2, 3, 4 million pound to get the squad bolstered and refreshed. And I think as the window ticks on, there'll be options to go and spend, because the guys in that market, you don't tend to get them early, because the reason why they're expensive is because there's demand. The demand means that they've got options. The option means that they'll wait and see what these options continue to be, and to maximise their value and their own contractual value. So these guys will be late in the window. So I think you see Celtic might hoover up half a dozen guys at the usual traditional Celtic type signings we've seen for the last 15 years. And then as the window ticks on, the last week, I think they might see them going big guns. And I think if they get an option of a player that does cost 8, 9, 10 million pound, I don't think they'll be shy. If an option lands in their lap they can go for, then I think they might go and do it. So I say my suspicion is you'll get a hybrid of both, not last season and not quite the previous. So a bit of both. I think they will. The option that the thing, Celtic have got that ability; they can do it if they want. Do you know what I mean? But I think a lot it will do. Scotty hit the nail on the head, because a lot it will depend on if there's a sale. Because it's not even the place like for like. It's also the kind of the perception as well. Celtic cash in on Dyson Maeda for 25 million quid, right? Or Nicholas Kuhn for 15 million quid, or Hatate for 10 million quid, or something like that, or any combination of these three guys going for big money. If they don't then go and make a statement in the market, people are going to be asking questions. Why? Again, the money in the bank, the Champions League coming up, they constantly demand to keep progressing and develop the team and improve. if they don't go big, the question's getting asked. So that might force their hand in the last weeks of the window to go big. So I think there will be. I think they will start doing it. I think they might be. I wouldn't be surprised to be a £10 million player coming this summer at some point. But it'll be after 6, 2.5, £3 million players.
Aye. We'll tell, I guess. Move across the city, Scott. Let me throw this at you. Eddie simply says, I'm absolutely stunned that the Rangers' first team is just over a week from returning for pre-season. Not one new recruit has been announced. It's all a bit meh, to be honest. Russell Martin is obviously in situ. How have you made... I mean, I suppose I was going to say what have you made of his first kind of early spells in charge, but there's not a lot to make of it, is there?
No, really, Daniel. I mean, he's only been in the job 10 days, I think. 10 days since he got unveiled. I'm not sure if he even properly started that day. I think it was another couple of days. So he's maybe only been in the job a week. No, they've been linked with several players, most of whom he knows, or some of whom he knows from previous guys like Harry Darling mentioned, Toffolo, with Touchstone. But no, there's not been much happening. I mean, look, although Martin's only been in a week, Kevin Thelwell's been working away behind the scenes as well, remember, before Russell Martin was even appointed. I mean, he didn't arrive from Everton until June the 1st, but I think he said himself he was grateful that Everton kind of let him beaver away in the background for Rangers ahead of starting the new job. So I don't doubt there is plans in place, but it's a bit like... no, like we were saying with Celtic, because that Celtic would maybe only have one or two big departures. For me, Rangers' priority has to be to get rid of folk before they start buying. Of course, they need... Listen, there's going to be a squad revamp here. Of course, they need new signings. Of course, a new manager will want his own players in. But I did a piece the other day, and when you actually looked in the squad, I think like a 27-man squad, you're thinking guys like Proper, Yilmaz, Bayrami, Cifuentes, Dowell, Davies, Matondo, Danilo. I think all these guys are probably on their way out of Rangers, and Thelwell's got a big job in his hands trying to get buyers, trying to get takers for them. Now, see if you can get money back on a lot of these guys. There's talk of Proper going back to Holland for maybe $1.5 million. There's constantly speculation about Yilmaz going back to Turkey. Who knows how you get rid of Bayrami, who only arrived a year or so ago for $3.5 million. Danilo, I think, still got 3 years left in his contract. I think I'm right in saying, which is huge. Obviously, they'll be hoping that Birmingham come in and take Davies and Dowell off their hands after a successful loan spell. So there's loads of stuff to happen at Rangers. And look, the caller's right. It's going to need to happen quickly because never mind pre-season. I mean, they've got a Champions League qualifier July 21st, 22nd, I think. So that will come run fast. So look, Russell Martin's got a lot to do. Thelwell's got a lot to do. And it'll need to happen pretty quick. But honestly, I think the priority for Rangers has to be to try and get players out. And I'm sure we'll talk about it. But one that I didn't mention there was Dessers, who after 51 goals in 2 seasons, you'd probably want to keep. But he's the one where it looks as if there is a serious bid from AEK Athens. We know that Dessers has intimated that he'd be keen on that move, and by all accounts looks to have agreed kind of wages. It's just a case of Rangers and AEK haggling over a fee. And I mean, I've done a piece for tomorrow in the paper saying Russell Martin's only been in a week, but he's already got a big problem because whatever you think of Cyril Dessers, that's 25 goals out the dressing room, in a flash before he's done anything. As I say, whether you think Dessers is first choice or whether you think he's any good, he guarantees you 25 goals a season because he's done it for the last 2 years. And Russell Martin has to replace that. He's obviously been linked with different strikers, but it's a big job having to replace those goals, those guaranteed goals, because that's what Dessers was giving you. So look, we've said it a million times on here. It's a massive. Rangers have got a massive rebuilding job in their hands, and look, things haven't happened as yet, but I'm pretty sure things will start moving pretty quickly in terms of players going out and then players coming in.
In the comments, Dennis says, Mick, we will see how good Dessers is when he's gone. A minority of our fans force players out then realise what they actually brought to the club. Goldson's a perfect example. We never replaced them. As Scott says, I mean, it's 51 goals in 108 games, 27 assists as well in 2 seasons. Look, I know he's a bit of a divisive figure. I know he misses chances. But at this level, as Scott says, he guarantees you goals. I think it'd be mad to usher him out the door.
He does, right? He does, and I've been kind of defending him. I think he does what he does. He scores goals, and he misses chances to score goals. But he's also on top whack. This is a guy who's over 30. He's a top earner. He's on. I said before, he's on first choice striker wages, and is he going to be first choice striker next season? Rangers are kind of hoping they won't be. I mean, they might have to be, but they're hoping they won't be. So you're going to end up with a guy who's going to be the backup centre forward on first choice money. Do you know what I mean? So, and you're over 30. So Rangers, I mean, you've got to weigh it up. If they can get the same money back or even make a profit on him at his age and on his wages, you've got to say, thanks, big man, all the best. I think it has been a good signing for Rangers. I know he drives people nuts. He misses chances and he's a bit flaky. And the key moments in big games when you really rely on him to put it in the back of the net, that's where he's not quite done it. Yeah. But he is what he is. When he does score goals, I mean, he'll drive people crazy, but his record's incredible. But that's been the way he's always through his career, it looks like.
Mick, I totally agree. Like, if Rangers get a big bid in for Dessers, and it looks as if it's going to be around the kind of 4 million pound mark, which is roughly kind of what they paid for him. Might actually be a wee bit more than what they paid for him.
Yeah.
At 30 years old, and the fact that he seems keen to go, of course you have to take it. Yeah. And in terms of money coming in, and Toppy, obviously the investment for the new, whatever investment is there for the new owners, that's a decent start for them. It gives them something to play with. And I'll say what I've always said about Dessers. For me, he's not a first pick number 9 for Rangers if you want to have a team winning titles and winning cups and competing in Europe and all that. But I think he's a very good backup striker or a very good guy to have competing with another striker in there. So what I'm saying, I agree. I mean, if that bid's there, they have to take him, but probably behind the scenes they'll be thinking, I'd rather get rid of Bayrami and Yilmaz and Proper and that and get the money in for them. Then you might actually be able to keep Dessers, and bringing in another striker to be alongside Dessers gives you that kind of that depth, strength and depth. So it's almost like a catch-22. They probably don't want to let him go because they know what he gives them. But at the same time, as Mick says, at 30, one of the highest earners, the bid's on the table, you kind of need to take it. But as I touched on earlier, it does leave a big hole because the strikers that are there are strikers that are left. Eagleman, to me, is still a work in progress. He's still a kind of, he's a rough diamond, really. There's still a lot of work to be done on him. Still young, developing. And Danilo just hasn't done it. No, he's not been helped by injuries, granted, but he's had loads of chances. Different managers haven't picked him or he hasn't done it for them. I don't really see if he comes back to be a key player for Rangers. So that's the 2 forwards we've got left. I think if and when Dessers goes, Rangers will need to go and get 2 strikers and hopefully try and offload Danilo if they can.
Rangers Easy OK in the comment section says Dessers has to go, doesn't ever do it in the big games. Igaman would definitely keep for another year, and Raskin needs to sign a new contract if we want to keep him, otherwise we will need to sell. And in the comments as well, Robbo is asking Scott, shouting as well, tell us how much Raskin is worth in your opinion, mate. No need to shout, Robbo, we can hear you just fine.
That's because, Daniel, that's because I took a wee bit of stick. I wrote a piece yesterday saying, I'm just watching Rangers fans or listening to them online talking about all these massive fees they were going to get in for players. And I seen at one point it was like 25 million for Raskin. Now, I might be miles off it, but I just don't see that with Raskin at the moment. I'm not saying he's no capable of meriting such a high fee, but not at the moment. I mean, for me, he's been really good the last 6 months. He's got into the Belgium team, which is brilliant. That'll add real value. But Raskin, Diomande, Igaman, these boys are all good players, valuable assets to Rangers. But they've not produced yet. They've not won enough trophies. They've not done enough to go and merit these huge transfer fees. Now, listen, somebody might come in with a daft bid because he's playing with Belgium. He's got a good profile. I might be wrong. I just don't see it at the moment. And I reckon the highest bid you'd maybe get for Raskin at the moment would probably be kind of £8-10 million max for where he is at the moment. And I hope Rangers keep him. I think they should keep him. I'd be tempted to try and get him in a new... He's got 2 years left. Be tempted to try and get him in a new deal so that in a year's time, if he goes to the World Cup with Belgium and does well, it would add even more value, and then you're in a really good position to field bids and maybe make a real healthy profit on him. But no, at the moment, I just think these guys have got so much more to prove at Rangers in terms of winning silverware.
Mick, I kind of agree. I would agree with Scott. I think Raskin's a brilliant player, but
you're going to get letters, Scotty. You're going to get letters. 800 quid. Oh.
Look, Marcus in the comments says Rangers could fetch 12 million for Raskin, not much more than that. However, Rangers Easy OK says 25 million is high, but he's absolutely clear, miles clear of Engels, who Celtic paid £11 million for. Scott, it needs to be upwards of 15 million. Like, I'm with Scott. I think that's a bit early for Raskin that kind of money, but what do you think, Mick?
Listen, it depends. The market can surprise you sometimes, right? I don't know. Basically, I don't know. I mean, this is a guy. 6 months ago, Raskin was more chance of me getting a game for Rangers than Raskin, right? He was absolutely Siberia. And Clement had sent him way out beyond the kind of into the wilderness. So I don't know. I think he's a really neat player. I think he's got levels, and I think he can improve further again. I don't think 25 million is realistic at this point in time, because I think, especially for players that are, I mean, he's a bit more of a kind of spoiler and a kind of quietly effective player. He's not a guy picking the ball and putting the top corner from 40 yards or pinging a ball at the back post. He had a few goals towards the end of the season, which I think was good, but he's not that kind of player. So for someone leaving Scotland, they tend to be a bit more of a kind of attack-minded kind of player to get that kind of money. We don't tend to sell many guys for that kind of value who are kind of slightly more kind of technical, deeper roles. So I think, I think 25 is a bit of a pipe dream, to be honest. I don't see that coming in anytime soon. And I know he's been capped for Belgium, which is a good thing to have in his CV. But there's plenty of guys in the Belgium team right now who wouldn't cost 25 million. Just getting capped for Belgium doesn't mean you're worth 25 million straight away. It's not like a premium. As soon as you play with Belgium, you're worth 25 million quid. That's not how it works. Because there are quite a few players in that team that are not quite the same level that the ones before.
No.
But I think a neat little player. I think he should stay for another year. I don't think he's reached his maximum value yet anyway. I think he should stay another year, keep performing, do well in Europe if he can. And then I think the graph hits the point where you say, right, cash in on him. At that point, we'll see what he's worth. But at this point in time, I don't think he's going to reach his peak value yet. So there's no point in cashing in on him.
AJSC Tech, Scott, because your sentiment says Rangers' problem in the market is that when they ask for 20-25 million, agents will rightfully ask what trophies they hope you deliver, which is a fair point. I mean, they're playing for a club that... Aye.
I just think you need to be to be a £25 million player in Scotland. You need to be dominating games and influencing games, impacting games with goals, assists, trophy wins. I don't think Raskin's got anywhere near that yet. No, I think he's a very good player. No, dissing him, and then he's Rangers' most
he's a really good player
at the moment.
Aye.
But he's still got other levels to find. And listen, a lot of Rangers fans were saying, but Celtic get 20 million for O'Reilly, for instance. And look, they've got a point. No, I think that was probably a surprise at the time, not getting that much money for O'Reilly, given kind of where he came from. The thing about O'Reilly was he was winning trebles at Celtic. He's playing in the Champions League group stage, which Raskin isn't doing. And as Mick says, O'Reilly was, to me anyway, was influencing games by goals and assists every week. No, big goals. Now, towards the end of last season, to be fair to Raskin, he started to chip in with a few and he was getting a bit further forward. and he was influencing it a bit more. He has to start this season really well, Raskin. I think he has to hit the ground running. As I say, go and dominate games of football, help Rangers win games of football and win trophies, and then you'll see that value start going up, and he'll be mentioned with those kind of fees. But I just don't think he's there at the moment.
Aye. Very finally, just before we finish, lads, if you were Andy Robertson, would you seek the reported move to La Liga and Atletico Madrid this summer if it was put your way? What do you think, Scott?
It's come out of the blue, that, isn't it? I mean, it's some move for him. What is he? I think he's 31, Andy Robertson.
31 now, yep.
I think he's... Look, it's hard to leave Liverpool when you've been there for as long as he has, achieved what he's achieved. You know, the size of that club, the relationship he's got with the fans. It'll be really difficult for him to leave there. But I think we all probably thought at the end of last season when they won the league, it might be a good time for him to move on. I mean, he's won everything he can there. He's an absolute legend. You know, 2 Premier Leagues, Champions League, outstanding. The fans still love him. I think his form has dipped, and he's admitted that himself. This season, though, he's made a few mistakes that he probably wasn't making a few years ago. It looks certain Liverpool are going to bring in Kerkez from Bournemouth, who you would think would pretty much go straight in as first choice left back. But at the very least, they'll be competing with Robertson for that jersey. So if you get a club like Atletico Madrid coming in at this stage of your career, La Liga, Diego Simeone, still Champions League football, I think it'll be very tempting. And I actually think for Andy Robertson himself, it might just be that wee jolt that he needs. It might just give him that wee kind of bit of fresh impetus. New lease of life, almost new country, new league. And if that does happen and he does well over there, it can only help Scotland. But listen, I get it. Difficult to leave Liverpool after everything he's done there.
Mick, would you? I mean, personally, I would love if I was Andy Robertson that move to Spain. It looks like the curtain's slowly coming down at Liverpool after an amazing, what has it been, 8 years there? As Scott says, Diego Simeone, La Liga, that'd be an enticing prospect.
If I was Andy Robertson, I wouldn't be drinking out a Sports Direct mug, that's for sure. I can tell you that. There's a bit of me that thinks that it'd be a kind of sad for him to leave Liverpool without a chance to kind of do a proper farewell. But it's football, that's what happens. I mean, I don't think he'll struggle to get a pint in Liverpool ever again in his life. He could be doing the Legends Lounge in 25 years' time down there. And he has put a part this season. I know I think Arne Slot maybe, not say he doesn't fancy him, but I think he is looking at that area of the pitch and wants to change it. Still played 30 games this season for Liverpool. I mean, as usual, gives everything he's got. I mean, I think going out with a title could be a good way, a good point to depart on. And like you say, what an attractive proposition. I mean, Madrid, brilliant city, brilliant club, brilliant league. Change of scenery. I mean, I think it would be an absolutely fantastic move for him. He's just turned 31, so he's got plenty. I think he's got plenty left to offer.
Aye.
So I think it'd be quite exciting for him. Yeah, so I think it might be time to try something. I think because next season you can see the writing on the wall a wee bit, can't you? He's not going to be first choice next season. There might be one, could be 2 new left backs on the books for Liverpool, so it might be a difficult kind of end for him in his last season. Albeit he'll always be a hero in those parts. But I just think, it sounds like a great opportunity to go on a couple of years in Spain, and then come back to Scotland and do a turn for Braith Rovers or something. Fairmont, something like
Queen's Park.
Aye.
You never know. That's skint these days.
On that note, guys, I think that brings to the end of Sunday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you very much for all the comments. They've been, most of them, amazing as usual. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Mick, Scott, thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, Daniel.
Pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of your Father's Day, boys.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to everyone watching, and we hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.